Sustainable Resilience with David Dodd.
And people think of a World Trade Center or promotional organization as economic development, but there's also an intersection with resilience. Can you talk a little bit about that with me and some of the ideas we've thrown around before?
Yeah, absolutely. I would actually argue that trade is resilience. I think there's nothing more in the making for a small business to become resilient than to embark on an international trade or a global platform. When we talk a lot about creating these resilient economies, we aren't really necessarily thinking about what does it take for a small business to become truly resilient in the marketplace. And having a global platform and being able to compete in the global marketplace is truly the hallmark of resilience.
Absolutely. Well, and in New Orleans, there is a real intersection between those two disciplines because New Orleans has had to become a very resilient city. There's been a lot of expertise developed in disaster response, recovery, and resilience. There are companies in this area. And the idea of exporting that knowledge and that expertise, people think of exporting as loading ships with cargo, but exporting can, I'm assuming you'll agree with this, also pertain to knowledge and expertise.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, we saw a lot of that, especially after Hurricane Katrina. And when we talk about the mission of the World Trade Center really being about creating a culture of trade, it's also really educating people about what is international trade, and it has so many faces. It's that small technology company in Slidell selling software and exporting their software packages and partnering with countries all around the world, to that small little spice manufacturer in uptown New Orleans, which is also exporting their market and their products all over the world. You know, so international trade is all-encompassing, and as an organization that represents that membership base, it behooves us to really tell that story and to talk about all those different faces of trade that extend beyond the traditional maritime type industry. But you know, I think when we talk a little bit about how trade has changed, we can see how much has changed, especially after Katrina. You know, and we talked a little bit about the integrated water technologies and these kind of emerging new sectors of opportunity that we have to export, and that's a great example of how the New Orleans economy has changed over over the last 10 years, especially since the storm hit, and the amount of knowledge that we export, especially with coastal restoration, engineering, a number of professional services to similar type of countries, has expanded considerably.